be serious, man. You cannot be serious.
Right, well done. Now that's our ham-fisted way. That's John McEnroe saying you can't be serious. You cannot be serious from Wimbledon all those years ago. Now we spoke. We got Dick. We got Richard Wollstonecroft. I shouldn't call you Dickie, from MUFF, Melbourne Underground Film Festival.
Go ahead.
But I thought, first of all, Dick, you can join in this or be part of this. I thought we mentioned last week about the ineptness of the state government. Wait till we have a discussion about that, Dick.
Yep.
The most dystopian, dysfunctional disgrace of a government trying to run our lives. But we'll get on to that in a minute. And I mentioned last week the first thing that the government should address before they go on with all the other crap they do is try and come to some resolution with iCook Foods, who were run out of office by corruption, dishonesty, and just sheer bloody mindedness. And this has been going on for 5 years. We've been doing this. And I thought I'd get an update from the CEO, the boss, the owner of iCook Foods, and ask him where we are with the inept and disgraceful state government that ran you out of town, Ian.
Yeah, well, Sam, it's still disgraceful. So we're still in litigation with the state government. We don't know who is giving the instructions to the lawyers on that are against us. We don't know if it's the Premier. We don't know if it's the Health Minister. We don't know who's giving the instruction. But I can tell you this. We went to court and we said to the Supreme Court, we have some legitimate concerns, and so do a lot of people who are following what's happened to us. And when we go to court for the next round, for the case that's running at the moment, we would like a jury, not a judge sitting alone. Anyway,
so, judged by a jury of your peers, other than a political appointment by the current government.
Correct. So they are fighting it tooth and nail. So we're about to write to the Premier and say, you know what? On the assumption that your lawyers are just doing this off cuff for you, please instruct them to allow us to have a jury of our peers. And apparently they won't. Apparently, they only want us to go into a court with a judge that they appointed.
Yeah, so of course they are fearful that the jury will find absolutely in your favour. And just in case, we've been doing this for 5 years, just to recap, you were run out of business. iCook Foods, you supplied food to hospitals and various other institutions, and a cabal, if you like, of the a cabal of the Australian government, the state government, and the local government got together and concocted dishonestly and corruptly a narrative where they planted slugs in your office, in your business, and you were declared not worthy to be providing food. Community Chef, the government-run institution, they took over because that was their main aim in the first place, and subsequently, because they were so hopeless, they went bankrupt, they went out of business, and you lost had 34 odd employers, so some of them special employers, special people that you gave employment to, and this is the greatest disgrace of a capital-free enterprise business being run out by a socialist dictatorship, and they were absolutely corrupted. The Andrews government and Brett Sutton, seriously, this is, you think it's a minor thing, but we said this 5 years ago. If they can do that to you, they can do it to anyone. There's no way the Allen government will allow a jury to oversee this, because no one could find in favour anything but in favour of you, Ian. So I'm interested to know how you're going to handle it.
So what we're going to do, and you're right about everything you said, it's just corruption 101. But by the way, when you say about us losing our business, and it could happen to anyone else, so it happened to us in 2019. Come 2020, we had the pandemic. And what did they do? They used the same fear, control, etc., and they put heaps of small businesses out of business. I mean, this.
Your thing was like a forerunner to the COVID thing. Do you think it's related to it?
I don't think it's related to it necessarily, Richard, but I think it shows the mindset of these people.
Yeah.
They control. They're about fear. They're about their own power and getting their mates into contracts and other things that gave them. Let's just talk about that just quickly. Community Chef was funded by the then infrastructure minister, Anthony Albanese, with his mate, Andrews. The two of them gave, between them, $15 million. Andrews said, when we questioned it, Andrews said, it's a loan. It's all commercial. It's not a problem. You know, we can be in business just like you. Absolute garbage. Let me tell you about that $15 million loan. That loan paid itself off as long as they kept the doors open every year.
Yep.
Okay? No interest, no repayments, just keep the doors open and we'll keep funding you if you need it. That's it. Now, ask any businessman or any entrepreneur listening to you today, Sam, whether they wouldn't mind that sort of loan.
No, so it's good that they just give them a leg up. It is completely dishonest. It's completely corrupt, which was the hallmark of the Andrews government, and it has continued under the Allen government. And you say that they are entitled to join the market. Sure, go through the due process and put up a proposal. They got you out of business by you've had people who worked for the council. What council was it, Danny? No, what council was it? Dandenong Council? No.
Yep, Dandenong Council.
Yeah, you've had people on oath give evidence. You've had photographs of them planting the slug that they concocted some stuff about, is it wisteria or listeria or something?
That was all proved. That was all completely proved.
Yes, it's all proven bogus. They just keep going and going. They have no shame. They're accountable to no one, which is like what's going on. And to not allow, as I say, a jury of people to look at the evidence, because we've looked at it for the last 5 years, or we wouldn't keep going on about this. To have a jury of people not look at that evidence and say, no, this is not right. They are so shit scared that they'll be found to be even more corrupt than they are at the minute. And I'm just wondering, when you write to the Premier, if she can read or understand what you're saying to her, what the response will be.
I don't know. I'll let you know when we get a response. I mean, sometimes we've written before to her and we got no response. It took a second email before we got a response from a staffer. Can I also tell you, so what's next is the Supreme Court has already knocked it back and said, no, you can't have a jury. The judge that was listening to it backed the government's position. Okay? Funny about that. But we will now appeal that to a full bench of the Supreme Court. Am I? Not necessarily, but this has become so expensive that I'll have to park the lawyers and I will do the appeal to the Supreme Court Appeals Court. I'll have to do that myself. And I've already I'm filling out the forms at the moment. I'm writing up the errors in judgment, etc. But I've still got filing fees and all sorts of other costs that we have to do. The whole thing, I mean, this has been a hugely expensive exercise for myself and my family, but we have to stop. We have to draw a line in the sand. It isn't, and I've said this before, this isn't just about Ian Cook. It's not just about I Cook Foods.
Didn't we, Ian? Didn't we start off a GoFundMe thing, or didn't that get? I thought I contributed to a GoFundMe page or website.
We have a GoFundMe page, and we did, and some very kind people gave us some money, and that has helped. Let me tell you. But
we need to crank that up again. No, I mean seriously. If you are in free enterprise and run a business, you cannot let this happen to you. And those judges, the one in the Victorian judicial system and the Australian Supreme High Court, are they government appointees?
So all of the Supreme Court judges for the last 20 years have been basically appointed by Labor.
Yeah,
right?
there you go.
Yes.
Over 28%, whatever it is, huge number. So that's where their allegiances lie. And if you're, by the way, if you're a barrister and you get the tap on the shoulder to become a judge, that should be an incredible honour. But it should be an honour that you get without bias to one side of politics or the other.
Of course.
Tell Trump that in America.
Yeah, that's right.
I mean, this is the famous Sluggate case, right? And so you've not been able to get it before a judge, before a jury anywhere. And isn't there some kind of ombudsman that could, for government corruption? Because this is so obviously the actions of a corrupt government.
So we have complained previously to IBAC, and we've gone to the Ombudsman, and they both throw their hands up and say nothing we can do. We originally got two senior detectives from Dandenong Central Station who then gave them a dark room so that they could do it without interference from council or politics. They went through all the evidence. They wrote a briefing note, which we weren't supposed to get, but was leaked to us. That briefing note said that Sutton, John Benny from Dandenong, Garlick, Johnson, all these players, that they all had cases to answer and that the evidence was compelling and that it should proceed.
More than compelling, as I understand it, the evidence is irrefutable, isn't it? I mean, there is pictures of them doctoring the pictures and lying and perjuring themselves. Are they not?
Sam, when a police officer tells you it's compelling, it's the same as what you just said. This is real.
Yeah.
Now, that with his bosses, and then you have to ask what happened to him. Oh, he was sent on forced leave, and command buried the whole lot.
Mm.
Then
this is like a kind of a Watergate kind of thing. It has the potential to really upset, bring down the government. So I guess that's why they're carrying on.
Well, it's been going for 5 years, Dickie. I mean, they keep stalling and stonewalling, and they'll keep doing it, and unless a jury is appointed to judge what we're talking about.
There you go.
Yeah. The thing, Richard, is this. The Westminster system relies on the Parliament and the judiciary and the police being completely separate. In Victoria, that isn't the case. You know what? I used to argue with my wife, and I used to say to her, hang on, sweetheart, there is a separation of powers. That's how the system works, etc.
Sorry.
When all of this, I got to a point where the evidence showed me that my wife was right and I was wrong. There is it is controlled. It's been set up. Andrews was Labor governments are very good at stacking Supreme Courts with their mates, but an absolute master at stacking that and all the important institutions.
Has the Liberal Party been able to help you at all? I mean, have they taken this issue on at all?
Yeah, they have. In the upper house, Georgie Crozier took it on, and they had, between her and the Reason Party, they got an inquiry up.
Yep.
But
I think they did I think, was it Channel 7 did a whole program on your case, didn't they?
Expose.
That was
what?
That's the game.
Yes, that's right.
It pays. They did it. A Current Affair did a big expose on it. I mean, and you know what? You don't get these media outlets doing exposés on something that are bull dust. They just won't do it because there's too many problems for them.
The journalist, he's a friend, not a friend. He's a companion in you with this. So I just can't think of his name. I know him well, and I can't think of his name. Wrote the Herald Sun, I think he writes for, or maybe The Age. The crime reporter. What's his name?
Andrew Rule.
Andrew Rule was a great supporter of all this, wasn't he?
Yeah, Andrew did
I've spoken to him about that.
He did a full session with me. And once again, Andrew wasn't going to say anything until he had seen the evidence, until he had stepped through it and was satisfied we weren't telling porkies.
Well, mate, so, and the the saga continues. When you've sent a letter into the beleaguered Premier, when do you expect someone will tell her what the response should be?
Go in this afternoon or tomorrow. We will send that off, and then we will wait and we will see. The point, it is why the government's lawyers have already told the Supreme Court that for us to have a jury has no prejudice on them, and it would not change any of the things or the way they've run the case. Well, if that's the situation,
give us a jury.
Why are you fighting against it? Why are you mates in the Supreme Court to knock this back?
Yep, they're fooling no one, mate. They're just they are shockers. They're wolves in sheep's clothing, or vice versa.
And it illustrates the move within the Labor Party towards a kind of more totalitarian kind of governmental system, where the police and the courts and the political side are all in unison, like you see under a totalitarian government.
Now, just quickly, Ian, were you coming back? Did you address some people down the coast on some farmers today, or what were you doing down there?
I actually went up to Horsham because a guy who's been following us and supporting us was having a meeting with a whole group of farmers, and there's a number of issues. As you saw on the weekend, farmers have issues with the CFA levy, which is just... And so this guy, I was looking at his numbers, he had something like his CFA levy, I think in 22 was like $1,200, etc. Under what they're doing, the new one, he's too old to be a CFA member, so he gets no credit. This year, it looks like he'll pay out over $17,500. I mean, we're talking to might have a good year this year, but next year it's dry and the crops are down. And this government treats them as if they're just the bankers for a government that's spending.
Ian, when you bankrupt a state and have done it for a decade, the only way they can not go out of business or have a credit rating which has gone out the back window at the international credit rating people who lend you money, the only way they can do it is to slug everyone for every single thing they'll do. Passports have gone up 100%, 200%. We're going to be taxed for, wait for this, we're going to be taxed now to ask for reparations. Reparations for what's going on in the courts about the Indigenous people, which is completely irrelevant for 98% of the population. I won't get you involved in that, Ian, but we wish you well, and we're here anytime you want to jump on the line and tell us if you ever get a response. I won't hold my breath till Christmas, but tell us if you get a response about the jury business.
Well, I will. I'll also keep you informed about what I have to do to try and run this forward myself. Like you said before, if anyone can help, we do have, I think it's on iancook.com.au on our website. We have the GoFundMe page you're talking about. You were up on that, Sam, before. And yeah, it's just, even when you're doing it yourself, the court filing fees and all the other things that load up and doing the court book, that they all become reasonably expensive. And so far, we've spent, like $2 million, and it gets to a point where you start to run out of money you can spend. But I'm not going to stop. By hook or by crook, I will figure out how to do this, and we will take this fight up to this government.
Good on you, mate. We're with you. We have been since day one, and we are still with you, only because it's right to be with you, not because I know you very well or because I have a vested interest or any skin in the game. It just is absolutely disgraceful.
Fighting the good fight.
All right, mate. Thank you. You can ring off if you want. We'll speak to you on another occasion, Ian.
No worries. Thanks, guys.
Thank you. Good talking to you, mate.
Bye.
All right. Now, Dickie.
Now, Sam.
Now, let's. This is along the same lines as what we've been speaking, but a bit more general.
Yep.
But we are dealing with. Do you know what dystopia means?
Absolutely.
Absolutely, because you're a wordsmith.
Mate. It's the opposite.
We are living under the most dystopian, dysfunctional bunch of hacks that the Victorian government is, It is an absolute disgrace. They are wasting so much time on land acknowledgements, reparations, slugging people. I think they're going to slug. They've just come out. You're going to be taxed. You're going to be taxed. If I can just find where I wrote this down.
All the Labor Party know how to do.
$80 million a year in reparations for a new treaty bill, which incidentally, which will amount to, by the year 2029, will amount to $600 million in tax to fund
what the hell is a treaty? Why do we need a treaty? This country was founded by the English when they came here. We don't need a treaty with fucking anyone. What's this treaty about?
But besides all that,
Dick,
besides all that, we had a plebiscite, yes/no vote, voice to Parliament. It was resoundingly defeated. No. The Victorian government take no notice of. Here's a premier who's actually not ever been elected to be the premier. Has just an arrogant, pompous charlatan. It is completely, and they're doing it as a diversion away from the shocking policies of public works, the suburban rail line, immigration, law enforcement, graffiti. It is extraordinary. We've got a Lord Mayor who wants to have 6 seasons in a year. Would there be something these people could concentrate on that might be to the overwhelming benefit of the people who are their constituents?
Every single day, it's either a home invasion or a machete attack in Melbourne. We've turned into a third world country in Victoria, and this is all the doing of the socialist Barbie wannabe, Alan. And look, I've got a little story. A friend of mine has just, his daughter, got involved in drugs, and she got, into prostitution. She got pimped out by one of these black Sudanese immigrants, right? And then, of course, after a year, she got sick of that, and she wanted to come home and live with her dad. And then, the other night, he about a month ago, he was around there banging on her door. This guy, and of course, the laws. You can't defend your own home. And of course, my friend lives with his aging father, and Australians are under attack, mate. And obviously, there was a huge mass immigration demonstration on the weekend. We should maybe have a little chat about that.
Well, we will have a chat about that because that clashed with the pro-Palestinian. So here we are. We're trying to do something about immigration so that the people that immigrate here actually have genuinely or generally the same values as the Western culture. They don't try and usurp everything else that's going on. They can understand basic English because we're an English-speaking nation. They respect the law, which they don't. It's not much to ask, and it's not what's the word when you're against countries? It's not that at all. Can't think of the word. What?
Are they treasonous? Are they traitors?
No, not treasonous. I can't think of the word.
Fair enough.
Anyhow, it's not racist. It is just genuinely trying to take your country back from that is gradually slipping away from the control of the people who built it. And if you want if you think we're an exception to the rule, have a look at what's going on in Britain and France and Switzerland. They are being overrun by hooligans and people who have no interest in our lifestyle.
In Spain.
And we talk about the indigenous people. You would think they would be absolutely up in arms to try and save what they call their country. I mean, it's being overrun to their detriment, to people who came in here and built the country from all countries, but not to people who have substandard people who come here and just here because they've fled another oppressive regime.
I hardly ever go to rallies, because I don't really believe in it. I think Melbourne has so many rallies that clog up our streets all the time. But I thought this one was a cause I really believed in. And I wanted to go down. I thought maybe I could report on it for the show. I joined the march just as it was beginning to move away from Flinders Street Station, and I went all the way up to Bourke Street. It actually was a mostly, you hear that cliche, mostly peaceful. It was. There were a couple of groups of Palestinian demonstrators standing on two of the corners who were basically looking to pick a fight. And they did pick a fight with a couple of people, you know what I mean? And of course, that's what you see on the news. And there were a small group of neo-Nazis. There was probably 10, 20,000 people, maybe even more. Some people say 50. But there was only maybe 100 neo-Nazis. And at one stage, there was a little scuffle there. But that was about it. It was basically your mums and dads who wanted to stand up for this country. That the majority of them are not racist, but they just think that the immigration numbers, which is like 500,000 people a year to this country, is ridiculous, and it's changing the whole, ethnic makeup of this country in a way that's counterproductive and also is against our values. You have to protect that. People come here for a certain reason because we have a certain standard of living and we have a certain series of values that people admire from around the world, and that's why people come here in the first place. But
now, here's a nonsensical canvassing opinion. What's survey? The national consultations show widespread systemic racism damages lives. Oh well, really? If you're saying that we have systemic racism in this country, you're deluding yourself. We do nothing of the sort. Yep. We push back just because you might have a different colour skin or a different nationality. Pushing back on some of the things you say does not mean you're a racist. It means you are open to have a dialogue that you disagree with. That's not racism. That is just standing up for. And we've been so conditioned to be very careful about what we say in case we're branded. Like it is. And I know, and here's the government. There's this hapless, pathetic government, and now every new state school is going to be named after an Aboriginal name.
It's ridiculous.
Well, it's ridiculous because if you say no one will know where it is, they'll have to say, "Oh, yes, this Aboriginal named state school is in Croydon." Well, why don't you just say it's the Croydon State School? What does it matter?
Aboriginal culture, Sam, it's a dead culture. It's a culture that's been replaced by the Australian culture, and it's like they're part of that. You know what I mean? And
it's great they're part of it because they're fine people. But to keep going on and on and on about this, it's irrelevant to 98% of the population, and they just keep pouring money into it instead of pouring money into law enforcement. Why don't they get a couple of SAS coppers and groups to go around and a bit like Trump's doing in Washington, D.C. He's got the National Guard out to go around and patrol some of these tinderbox areas and show that there's law enforcement on the street and we won't tolerate it.
How about the Army Reserves? Why don't we call in the Army Reserves?
Why don't we call in the Army Reserve to have a presence in some of these areas? They keep coming up, the same towns and the same areas keep coming up week after week. Yeah. And, if you think about the mental process that goes through a government sitting around a cabinet table and saying, let's spend $13 million on dishonest people being honest and putting machetes in a bin. It is, who thought of that and who thinks it is frightening. It's frightening that these people are actually handling our lives.
As if anyone who is using a machete for a criminal purpose is going to put theirs in the bin. And also someone will probably just break into the bin and end up with 50 machetes they can distribute to their gangster friends. It's ridiculous, Sam. And it's not worked. And it's just another... How much did that cost? It cost millions as well.
13 million, of course.
13 million of wasted.
Now, I interviewed a man who came on called Craig Cole. He was about pedophilia and people grooming our underage students, and we had overwhelming support. He has now taken this to another level. He wants some civil action. He wants the Australian government to be dismissed by the Governor General, a bit like Mr. Kerr did to Gough. Isn't it extraordinary that the two disasters in Australian politics, one was Gough Whitlam, who in 1 year, Gough managed to have, in 1 year, this is almost impossible, to have the highest interest rates, the highest inflation, the highest industrial unrest, and the highest unemployment, all in 1 year. Usually one country...
originally. He's the guy who sold Australia out originally to the globalist cabal overseas,
Yes,
international cabal.
and John Kerr dismissed him. Craig is thinking maybe the Governor General could dismiss the present government, who does not get on with the United States. They've got a silly Kevin Rudd, who has abused Trump, and wonders why they don't go on them. We had Richard Marles go over to have a bit of a chat about trade, and they wouldn't even meet him. Would you think it'd be a good idea to get on good terms with the Trump government, because they might help us eventually?
Well, obviously, the US is our number one ally. It's the only reason that China doesn't attack this country. The fact that Albo seems to be, during his whole term, seems to be quite happy to put our special relationship with the United States under deep threat. I mean, he's quite happy to go and spend a week over in China, which is basically Australia's number one enemy in the 21st century. They are the major threat. They also toured a flotilla of warships around our country during our election, which the media hardly covered, just as a bit of a warning. And I mean, do they even need to invade anyway? Because half of our cities are overrun with Asian immigrants already. So, it's like the presence is already here, and obviously they've all been instructed by the Chinese Communist Party to vote Labor. And this is another thing that the Democrats do. They're importing their voters. You see Albo, he's wooing Indians and he's wooing Chinese immigrants because he knows they'll vote Labor, because they want to build large communities in Melbourne and Sydney so that these cities are unrecognisable. It'll be a mix of Mumbai and Beijing.
And so the complete illogicality, if that is a word, of recognising Palestine, that's fine, but not recognising the government that runs it. How can you not recognise the government, which is Hamas, and why would you recognise it if you're going to recognise the state of Palestine? The two are juxtaposed.
And they had Palestinians attacking people on the weekend at the Patriots March. I mean, that was a very bad look.
Why does the government under everyone's entitled to protest? Well, lots of people protest that the police don't allow to protest. You mentioned a group of them before, the right wing group, who probably have a right to protest. If people can stop our traffic and stop the public from moving about at will by any protest, why do they allow protests? If you want to protest, march around Flemington Racecourse. That'd be a good idea.
The same friend of mine who had his daughter being pimped out by one of these Sudanese, he went along to the demonstration, and on his way there, he got jumped by a bunch of Palestinian demonstrators. About 20 of them tried to beat him up, and he went to the police to complain about it, and they're not interested. His name's Dave Murphy, and I got pictures of him. He's been beaten up, I'm trying to get someone to speak to him about it, but no one seems interested.
Anyhow, now Craig Cole, I've been in touch with him. He's having a rally called Australia Unites. Australia Unites. This is about taking your country back. It's not racist, and it's not, I can't think of that word. It's xenophobic. Xenophobic. It's not xenophobic. It's taking your country back from what it was and how it should be. And it's called Australia Unites. It's on the 13th of September, nationwide at noon. The venue is to be announced, because I presume he's trying to get a permit from this inept and hapless government. But you could watch this space. And
if you think about it, the people who protect, the local culture, they're the opposite of racist. You know what I mean? They're the people who just want to protect something that's beautiful. If you want to protect the English culture, you want England for the English, you want French for the French. You might even want Chinese for the Chinese, or Japan for the Japanese. You know what I mean? Like, what's wrong with that? And it seems to be okay if you're Japanese to think that way, or if you're Jewish to think that way.
I read out last week about what the Japanese do with they don't allow. Well,
they don't have multiculturalism, mate. And it's one of the best countries on earth. I've been there about 8 times. It's one of my favourite countries on earth. You can drop your wallet. And actually, a friend of mine, my girlfriend, dropped her wallet in Tokyo, and it was picked up, handed into the station, and it was returned with the money in it. That's the kind of civilization you've got over in Japan, because everyone trusts each other, and they're just they're a beautiful people. It's great, and it's because they don't have multiculturalism, and they don't have the social
Keep
dysfunction.
going, Dickie. I'm trying to find what I was going to read out to you.
And I
Just
think
a
that
minute.
rally on the weekend was fantastic for Australian patriots. It was just an extraordinary thing to see, and it was much bigger than any Palestinian demonstration I've ever seen. And people were smiling and happy, and they were just very proud that I think a lot of people stayed away too because the media kept saying there'd be violence, and there wasn't. As I said, there was only a little bit of violence from left-wing groups attacking people, and a minor scuffle involving the National Socialist.
Desperately, while you're speaking, trying to find what the Japanese do.
Yeah.
I read it out last week. If I don't find it very shortly, I'll dispense with it.
I'd like to get your opinion on this Desi Freeman situation as well. When
I want to ask you. So,
Yep.
So, all the conspiracy theories come up.
Yep.
They said that there was no body cameras or of the incident, or why haven't they
All
shown
30
the
police had no body cameras? Isn't that suspicious?
No, but before we're not maligning, we're not suggesting why isn't there any body? So they say the alleged assailant or the criminal, if they've got body footage of him, the coppers knocking on the door and saying we've got a warrant for your arrest, and suddenly things go haywire. Why wouldn't they show that?
No, exactly.
That would just the credibility. That would just dispel all the chat about it.
I mean, obviously, we condemn and we
Yes, we do.
With the terrible loss of life, the 2 police officers, that's terrible, obviously, and anybody with common sense will be doing that. But there's a lot of weird things going on up there. He was a member of a group, the group that call themselves Sovereign Citizens. And that's a group that started in America. It's people who sort of really don't trust the government. And that actually is a large group of people these days, if you know what I mean. And, but you can see, and it was very weird, the timing of it. This incident happened 1 week after ABC's Four Corners did a kind of hit piece on sovereign citizens. You can see that the sovereign citizen movement is some kind of threat towards the desire to bring totalitarianism into this country. So I think we're all going to watch the situation up in Port Punta.
Yes.
I've been there before. It's beautiful. Obviously, it's the ski area.
Besides that, Dick, a person that shoots 2 policemen dead.
Yep.
It doesn't matter what. Why haven't they got body camera footage of just not them being shot, perhaps, but just knocking on the door and saying we've got a warrant for your arrest? That would. And then people put 2 and 2 together and say they were shot as soon as the police said that. Why don't they show that?
I know that's very.
Or why don't they concede that they've got it? Or say we've got that, but we're not showing.
And they
it.
also said originally that he took his family hostage, which wasn't true because his family was actually somewhere else, and they arrested them later. There's a number of
but Dick, before this goes into, we're not. It sounds like we're watering down this man's actions. We're not doing that at all.
No.
I'm just wondering why they don't show the body camera footage of them arresting him.
Yeah, it's very strange.
That would dispel all the bullshit that
he might be a psychopath
talking about.
Gone up into the mountains. It feels very much like the film First Blood, where somebody, who's crazy and has gone up into the hills now. So anyway, we'll just have to watch it closely and see what happens. But, how's everything else been going? How's everything on the sports front, mate?
Sports? You're delving into sports now, Dickie, are you?
I listened to you and,
The Duck. Yeah, well, I deliberately don't speak to the Duck about the things we're speaking about because I don't like to get him out of his comfort zone. But we'll handle the sport, Dickie.
All right,
what did you want to say about the sport?
Oh, no, nothing. I just...
Go on.
I was changing the topic. No, I mean, I always...
Why are you changing the topic? I get you on for political comment, Dickie.
Well, I think it's interesting the way, sport to me is always about tribalism. It's a way to sort of deflect.
Yeah, of course it is.
Deflect the tribalism. For
Yes.
example, we saw tribalism on the weekend at these riots, but sport in a way deflects that. And instead of people having animosity within society, they have animosity between Collingwood and
Dick, that is the point. Sport is about tribalism, but if you go and shout and abuse and do
Yeah.
whatever you like, we don't have to segregate opposition supporters like they do in Britain. We don't have to put fences up. There's usually no riots or brawls. It's a release. But
Yeah, let off steam, yeah.
the AFL insist on making it more political every month. They have some other reason why you should go to the football and vent your spleen, and rather than cheering on for your team. And if they
100%
concentrated
right.
on getting the game right, rather than going on with all the nonsense about what they carry on with, you're right, the tribalism in sport would be a great release. But somehow it's not being a release because of the complicity of the AFL to make sure that they make everything political and squeaky clean and virtue signal every single thing and try and
Yeah, that's the only.
mini.
That's the only point I wanted to make is about that. The other thing I wanted to ask you about is Katter. What did you think of Bob Katter threatening to punch the journalist? I thought that was funny.
Well, because and now Bob's into the immigration thing,
He's
and
great. He was there.
yeah,
He was there at the Queensland demonstration. Pauline
yes,
Hanson was there.
because the journalists, they try and take a rise out of people like Bobby,
Yep.
and they say he's a what they call him, a racist, or what they call him.
Well, he has some Lebanese heritage from 150 years ago, but he's a dinky Aussie, that mate. You know, his family's been here since the 1850s, mate. So, you know, I mean, it was a low blow. They were trying to have a go at him. You know, it's like, why do you go to an anti-immigration thing when you yourself, say 200 years ago, everybody 200 years ago, my family came here 200 years ago, probably yours did as well. I mean, you know.
Oh, well, we wouldn't have been here otherwise. Anyhow, Dickie, that's it. Well done. Don't get into the sport, Dick. Stick in your own lane.
Stay in my lane. All right.
Micromanage was the word. Manage. I couldn't think of the word micromanage.
We didn't get on to Donald Trump, did we? You didn't even mention Trumpy, but anyway.
Well, how well's that man going? He's just a rebel. He is the
calls out George Soros recently, and he's actually called out for vaccines to to be investigated, to make sure that they're all kosher and everything, because RFK's raised a few questions.
Righto, Dickie.
There it is.
Say goodbye.
Goodbye.